Stay with us because right now we go to the Vatican. Pope Francis will meet Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas on Thursday as the Catholic pontiff becomes more vocal in his criticism of Israel's retaliatory military operation in Gaza following the October 7th Hamas invasion and mass abduction. Abbas travels to Italy this week, where he is set to meet with President Sergio Mattarella and Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. Now, on the weekend, the Pope unveiled a Palestinian nativity scene gifted to the Vatican, featuring a representation of baby Jesus in a keffiyeh, the traditional Palestinian national scarf draped on Jesus's cradle. The pontiff called on believers to remember the brothers and sisters who in Bethlehem and other parts of the world are suffering from the tragedy of war. So for more, we go live to Rome and we welcome Vatican journalist Francis Rocca from the Italian capital. Thank you so much for your time. The Vatican announcing today the pontiff will be meeting with Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas. Not giving any details, though. What do you make of this? What is likely to come out of a discussion like this, given the Pope's comments up until now on the war?
Well, the Pope and the Vatican try to be even-handed about this, which, of course, doesn't make everyone happy or perhaps makes everyone unhappy. It should be noted that on Saturday, he went and saw that Palestinian nativity scene you mentioned. On Sunday, he went to go see Chagall's White Crucifixion. With a painting from the 1930s that shows scenes of pogroms in Russia, anti-Semitic violence in Kristallnacht, and so that identifies the crucifixion of Christ with the persecution of Jews. So they're trying very hard. They're always trying to balance and counterbalance. From the beginning of the war in Gaza, they've said no to terrorism, but no to arms. So equating, and this has made Israeli government very unhappy. And he even called, as you know, the operation in Gaza terrorism. But I think, the Vatican has always been sympathetic to the Palestinian cause. Some Palestinians are Christians, of course. Even John Paul, who had begun a great effort to have better rapport with Jews, going to synagogues, which has become obligatory for every pope since. But there's always been that effort, and so that I think this Pope Francis, early in his pontificate, held that prayer for peace with Shimon Peres and Abbas in the Vatican Gardens in 2014. So I think there's always the effort to sort of be neutral and push for peace, and of course that doesn't make everybody happy, obviously.
Certainly doesn't make everybody happy. The Pope, of course, has met with some families of the hostages. But right now, as you well know, 100 hostages are still in captivity in Gaza for more than 14 months now. So a strong voice out of the Vatican, a voice of reason, ethics, morality, condemning the fact that the hostages, who range in age from a baby to elderly peace activists, might be appropriate right now as well. Could the pontiff have been more outspoken, more outraged about this current situation for the Israeli hostages more than 14 months in?
Well, he always pairs it. His usual formula is stop the war, release the hostages, or release the hostages, stop the war. He always pairs the two. So I'm sure he'll do that again. And again, it's a similar situation in Ukraine, where he says stop the war, but he won't blame Russia. So, I mean, it's another case, of course, but he's always trying to bring two things together, and the idea is simply to bring peace. But yes, as you're right, he did meet with the hostages' families. At the same time, the same morning, the first time at least, he met with some people from Gaza. So he's always, I think he will do that again. He will call for the hostages to be released, certainly.
And very briefly, much reaction, of course, to the Pope unveiling that Palestinian nativity scene, so to speak, gifted to the Vatican. Tell us very briefly some of the varied reactions so far.
Well, I mean, the concern is that there is a long-standing practice in some quarters of trying to play down Jesus's Judaism, which is, of course, not historically correct and is not the teaching of the Catholic Church. So there was some concern that was having that effect. That it was saying, oh, he was a Palestinian, but I would say that there's no question that the Pope recognizes that Jesus was a Jew. He has been criticized never for anti-Semitism, because he has had very good relations with Jews in Buenos Aires and always, but of anti-Judaism, a theological, sometimes when his criticism of Jewish theology, but that's another subject.
Right.
But I think that's right, yeah.
Well, we certainly appreciate your insight into all these developments. Live from Rome, Vatican journalist Francis Rocca, thank you very much for your time.